Blake, I read your question a number of times and very carefully, and um, it's an important question. There are probably a lot more people like you than you think. In fact, ironically, there are many things in what you ask that I personally relate to. I learned a long time ago, and this was long before I was a Christian. I was at Michigan State University in the Honors College there, and that is, and I had the discussion with a friend of mine, and basically the point was, those who think are plagued by thoughts, to put it simply. When you when you don't think about things, you don't worry about things. But when you start thinking about the nature of reality, that's when you are sometimes plagued by your thoughts. And the reason is that reality is unusual. We discover things that seem odd. And we have difficulty in certain times and certain things in knowing the truth of the matter about things. This is true for everybody, by the way, not just for Christians. This is true for anyone. Every single worldview has its difficulties. And I've said a number of times before that reality is not tidy, Christianity is not tidy, the Bible is not tidy. Life is kind of messy. And I'm the kind of person, as you mentioned in your question, being left-brained, that I like things all kind of nice and neat in a row. And I think things can be put in better order than they are for a lot of people, but it doesn't mean we can put everything in order. And so I find myself not infrequently in the spot that you're in. When I recently spoke about the new atheists, I kind of made reference to the fact that some people won't even pick up the books because there's a little chill that goes up their spine. They're afraid what they're going to see there, and it might disprove their view. I relate to that chill. I'm not protected from that, even with all the things that I know, because there is this nagging thought in the back of my mind, just like a lot of people. What if I'm wrong? What if I've given my whole life to this thing and I'm mistaken? Now, there are a couple of ways to respond to that. One of them is to simply answer the question, what if I'm wrong? I just read an atheist who posted on a site that I was interacting with yesterday in the blog tour, who said, I was raised a Christian and I had a great and happy life as a Christian. I liked it. I missed it. I still miss it, as a matter of fact. It was fun. Now, I don't hold those convictions anymore, but my wife is a Christian and my kids are Christian, and I hope they stay that way because it's fulfilling, even if I think they're mistaken. So for the atheist, he enjoyed his Christian life. He thinks it's false. Now he's an atheist, and if he's right, what happens? He dies, and that's the end of it. So there's no downside for us if we mistakenly follow Christianity. Not if atheism is true. Now, it might be that some other religion is true, but if you think about almost all the other religions, most of them are friendly to Christianity. That is, if you're a good Christian, you pretty much qualify on their terms. Now, Islam might be an exception to that. But I mean, if you're just doing a cost-benefit analysis, if we are wrong, we really don't have a lot at risk. But what would it take for us to be wrong? And this is where I think when dealing with these doubts, when they come up, I encourage people to take them one by one. My staff and I are reading a book by an atheist. We're just starting it. And his arguments have been compelling to some people. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it chapter by chapter and see what the big idea is, see the reasons for the idea, and see if they work. Basically, the Columbo tactic or critical thinking skills, one by one. Separate the nonsense and look at the goodies. Now, I'll tell you for one that, by the way, this person we're reading is a former Christian who's an atheist, so he rejects Christianity and theism. So I want to see his arguments against theism. I'll tell you, it is going to be very difficult to dislodge me from my confidence that atheism is false, because there are so many arguments from so many different directions that underscore the legitimacy that someone is out there who caused the universe to come into being and who left the imprint of his design on this universe in so many different ways, not just the physical universe, but on our souls, on our consciousness, on our understanding of morality and order in the universe and purpose in the universe. So I think it's going to be difficult to disabuse me of that. Now, I think when you get to the specific claims of Christianity, that's more difficult because there are a lot of ways to disprove Christianity in principle. Jesus didn't rise from the dead. If there is no soul, if there is no morality, if the Bible can't be relied on with regards to its historicity, these are all vulnerable spots. Now, I mean vulnerable in principle. I don't think that that they're vulnerable in the sense that these are things that have actually been compromised. But what we need to do is take one by one. And in so doing, I want you just to think about the historicity of the Gospels, because this is a big thing and it's something that you made reference to. We have very good evidence that the Gospels are early. This evidence is acknowledged, that is mid-first century. This evidence is acknowledged by many people who don't hold our theological views. Secondly, that the Gospels are, on balance, I mean, almost universally by historians, acknowledged to be legitimate sources of history about the life of Jesus of Nazareth. I've said this on the air a number of times, but what I need to qualify is that historians accept the Gospels as history. They just don't accept everything in the Gospels as historically valid. For the most part, they reject miracles and Jesus' divine claims and resurrections and stuff like that. Now, why do they reject them? It's the same historical documents that support the details of Jesus' life, which they agree on by and large, and these miraculous deeds. So why do they reject the miraculous deeds? Because they don't believe in miracles. Their worldview doesn't allow it. And so they think it's fanciful and they simply reject it. Now, here's the question. Are we justified in believing in the possibility of miracles given our worldview? And the answer is, of course, because the biggest miracle was the first sentence of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the big one. If he can create the heavens and the earth, he can raise people from the dead. Those are little bitty things. Do we have good reason to believe that God created the heavens and the earth? Of course. Those are the cosmological and design arguments for the existence of God that are so compelling that even stalwart atheists have caved in under their force. So if we have great evidence for the existence of God, we have no reason to believe that he can't intervene in history in a miraculous way. Therefore, we have no good reason to reject prima facie, on the face of it, miracles that are recorded in the Bible. And if we have lots of other reasons to trust the biblical accounts, the gospel accounts in particular about Jesus, then I think secular historians have acknowledged that that's the case, the great preponderance of them, then we have no good reason to doubt the legitimacy of those accounts as they touch the issue of Jesus and his miracles and his resurrection and his claim to be Messiah. So all of those things are kind of in place. Now, I understand your fear. It really reflects a fear that I expressed in a talk called Hell Yes, where I talked about hell. And the fear isn't that, really, the biggest fear isn't that we're wrong. The biggest fear is that we're half right. In other words, my fear is that I'm right about God and his justice. I'm just wrong about his mercy in Jesus. And that would leave us in a pitiable state, wouldn't it? Which is what you described. But the same reasons that I have to be right about God's justice are the reasons that I have to be right about his mercy. Because the same testament that declares one declares the other. And the value of God intervening in history in the person of Jesus is that we can test that. And so we have good reason to believe that. Are we 100% certain? I'm not. There's always this variable. There's always this question. But if we are 51% sure, then we are justified in putting our confidence in that. And I think our case is way far and above 51%. And so we have all of that reason to be confident, even though we still live with some doubts. And that's the human condition. It's very hard to avoid all those doubts. And the more you think about things, and the better thinker you are, the more you're going to be challenged here. And the solution is simply to take your best thinking to the specific challenges and ask yourself, what is the most reasonable answer given all the evidence. And every time I do that, I am secured in my confidence in Christianity and in Jesus Christ.